God says, I am cutting them off for good, your season of pain is over. Before you breathe another second, hear this, something has already shifted in the unseen, and you were meant to find this message at this exact moment. What you've endured was not random. What's coming will not be gentle, but it will be final. A holy decree has gone out. Archangel Michael stands in authority now, addressing you, not as a suggestion, not as comfort, but as a verdict. Heaven has observed every betrayal you swallowed in silence. Every night you cried without witnesses. Every time you begged God to make it stop. And now the answer has arrived with force. God says the season of pain is over. Not postponed. Not slowly fading. Over. There are people, patterns, and spiritual attachments that were allowed only for a time. They were permitted to test you, stretch you, expose what needed to be healed, but they were never meant to remain. And now the command has been released, they are being cut off for good. This is not emotional separation. This is not gradual distance. This is divine removal. What's about to happen may feel sudden. Conversations will end without closure. Doors will shut without explanation. Some will disappear without apology. And you must not chase what God Himself is removing. Michael warns you, do not reach back for what heaven has already severed. Pause here. Breathe. If this resonates, it's because your spirit already recognizes the authority behind it. A gentle act like liking or staying connected keeps you aligned with what's unfolding, but do not let distraction pull you away right now. Something critical is being revealed. Here is the truth many don't want to hear. Some of your pain stayed longer because you were loyal to what was draining you. You prayed for relief while still feeding the wound. But God is not asking anymore. He is acting. Archangel Michael makes this clear. What leaves now will never have access to you again. Not emotionally. Not spiritually. Not energetically. The cycle is broken at the root. You may feel a strange mix rising in you, relief and grief at the same time. That's normal. Even freedom can feel frightening when you've been bound for so long. But heaven is not confused. This separation is protection, not punishment. Watch carefully over the next days. You'll notice clarity returning. Your sleep shifting. Your intuition sharpening. That heaviness you carried for no reason, it begins to lift. That constant resistance, it loosens. That inner exhaustion, it starts to dissolve. This is how divine cutting works. It doesn't scream. It realigns. And here's the part that will shock you most. Once they are removed, you'll finally see how much they were blocking. Blessings didn't delay because you weren't worthy. They delayed because something incompatible was standing too close to you. Michael warns you again, do not try to rescue them. Some people will feel your absence and suddenly want access again. They will sense the door closing and knock louder. But this time, God says no explanation is required. Silence is your obedience. What replaces them will not wound you. What comes next will not confuse you. But it cannot arrive until the clearing is complete. Stay with this message. Let it settle. Something even deeper is about to be revealed about why this separation had to be permanent, and what is already moving toward you because of it. And when you hear what's coming next, you'll understand why heaven waited until now to cut them off. Do not misunderstand what is happening now. This is not collapse. This is conclusion. There is a difference between something falling apart and something being ended by decree. What you are experiencing is not chaos, it is order being restored. Heaven is stepping in where endurance has reached its limit. You were never meant to carry what you carried for this long. Archangel Michael speaks with clarity now. The delay was not denial. The silence was not absence. God was watching how deep the wound went, how far the interference had spread, how many areas of your life were being quietly restricted by what stayed too close for too long. Some connections don't look evil. Some attachments don't feel toxic at first. But they limit momentum. They distort perception. They keep you explaining yourself when you were meant to advance. That's why this cut is permanent. What God is removing now is not just a person or situation, it is an access point. Something had permission to affect your emotions, your decisions, your confidence, your peace. And that permission has been revoked at the highest level. You may notice something unusual happening inside you. A calm you didn't expect. A clarity that feels unfamiliar. A quiet strength rising without effort. That is not numbness. That is relief. You are finally breathing without resistance. But hear this carefully, because this is where many people miss the moment. When God cuts something off for good, the mind often tries to rewrite the story. You may suddenly remember the good moments, the laughter, the hope you once had, and nostalgia may try to reopen what heaven has sealed. Archangel Michael warns you now, do not romanticize what cost you your peace. The pain you endured was not imaginary. The confusion was not exaggeration. The exhaustion was not weakness. You stayed longer than you should have because your heart is loyal, but loyalty without alignment becomes self-betrayal. God is correcting that now. This is why you may feel a strange guilt for choosing peace. That guilt does not come from God. It comes from breaking a pattern where you were always the one who stayed, fixed, forgave, absorbed. That role is over. Something is being restored in your authority. You are no longer negotiating with what drains you. You are no longer explaining boundaries. You are no longer waiting for understanding. Heaven understands, and that is enough. Pay attention in the coming days. The signs will be subtle but undeniable. You'll stop overthinking certain names. You'll stop replaying conversations. You'll stop feeling pulled backward. Instead, your attention will shift forward, almost automatically. That's alignment. And now comes the part you weren't prepared for. Once the separation settles, acceleration begins. Not later. Not someday. Immediately. Opportunities will arise that you would have sabotaged before. Decisions will feel easier. Confidence will return without effort. You'll realize how much of your energy was being siphoned just to survive proximity to what was never meant to walk with you into the next season. This is why the cut had to be clean. If you're feeling a quiet urgency to stay connected to this message, listen to it. Staying aligned, even through something simple like remaining present or supporting what resonates, keeps your focus anchored. But don't let distraction interrupt this moment. Something crucial is being revealed. Archangel Michael now addresses the fear you haven't admitted out loud, the fear of being alone after the separation. Hear this clearly: you are not losing companionship, you are losing interference. What is being prepared for you cannot coexist with what just left. New connections will not require you to shrink. New assignments will not drain you. New favor will not confuse you. But first, space had to be created. That is why this feels final. That is why there is no going back. That is why explanations are no longer necessary. Heaven has closed the door so tightly because what's ahead requires focus, strength, and undivided energy. You are being positioned for something that cannot afford emotional leakage. And here is the confirmation you've been waiting for: the pain does not return. The cycle does not repeat. The lesson does not come back around. This time, it ends at the root. You will not be tested by the same thing again. You will not be pulled into the same pattern. You will not mistake familiarity for destiny. Something in you has matured. Something in you has awakened. And heaven trusts you with what comes next because you survived what came before. Stay alert. Stay grounded. Stay open. Because the next revelation will explain why this separation triggers a chain reaction of favor, and why what's about to step into your life will make the pain you endured finally make sense. And when you hear what's coming, you'll understand why God didn't just remove them, He protected your future by doing it now. Stay with this moment, because what unfolds now explains why the cutting had to happen the way it did. Not softly. Not gradually. But with finality. Archangel Michael reveals this truth to you now: some doors cannot be closed gently, because if they are, you will keep reopening them. Heaven knew your compassion. God knew your tendency to give one more chance, then another, then another. So the separation had to be decisive, not to hurt you, but to free you. What was removed carried a hidden assignment. It wasn't just draining your emotions, it was quietly delaying your elevation. It influenced your timing, your confidence, your spiritual sensitivity. It kept you second-guessing yourself when you were meant to stand firm. This is why the opposition intensified right before the cut. Have you noticed that? Just before things ended, the tension grew stronger. The confusion deepened. The emotional weight became unbearable. That was not coincidence. That was exposure. Anything that reacts violently to being removed was never meant to stay. And heaven allowed you to see it clearly so you would never question this decision later. Now listen carefully, because this is where the shift becomes undeniable. Since the separation, God has begun rewiring your discernment. You are no longer attracted to the same energy. The same conversations feel empty. The same dynamics feel exhausting. That is not loss of interest, that is growth. You are outgrowing what once felt familiar. Archangel Michael declares that your spirit has crossed a threshold. You can no longer be manipulated by guilt. You can no longer be controlled by emotional obligation. You can no longer be distracted by half-connection and partial truth. This is maturity in the spirit. You may notice that people who once had power over your emotions no longer do. Their words don't land the same. Their presence doesn't pull you the same way. That is because the cord has already been severed, even if your mind is still catching up. Do not be alarmed if you feel moments of emptiness. That space is not loneliness. It is vacancy, and vacancy always precedes filling. God does not remove without replacing, but He replaces after you stop clinging to what left. This is where trust matters. Heaven is not asking you to figure out what's next. You are being asked to stay unentangled. Do not rush to fill the space. Do not chase distraction. Do not resurrect old conversations in your mind. Stillness now is strategy. Because something is being assembled that requires your full attention. Archangel Michael now speaks to the weariness you carry, the fatigue that came from always being the strong one, the understanding one, the patient one. God saw how often you minimized your own pain to keep peace. That version of you is being retired. You are no longer assigned to carry what others refuse to heal. That assignment is over. And here is what will surprise you most: the moment you stop carrying it, strength returns. Not borrowed strength. Not forced strength. But restored strength. You will feel motivation rise without pressure. You will feel joy surface without explanation. You will feel clarity settle without effort. These are not emotional highs. These are signs of alignment. If you sense a quiet pull to remain connected, to keep listening, to stay aware, honor it. Staying aligned with truth keeps your spirit anchored as this transition completes. But do not rush the process. Acceleration is already scheduled. Now comes a warning wrapped in protection. Some things may try to circle back, not because they are meant to return, but because they sense you are no longer accessible. When that happens, do not engage. No long explanations. No emotional defense. No reopening. Silence is your boundary now. You don't owe closure to what cost you your peace. God already closed the door. And hear this clearly: this separation was not mutual. It was divinely enforced. Which means you are not responsible for how others interpret it. You are only responsible for obedience. What's coming next requires emotional clarity. It requires spiritual focus. It requires a version of you that is no longer fragmented by unresolved attachments. That version is emerging now. You may feel a quiet anticipation you can't explain, like something good is near but still unseen. That is because heaven is preparing an introduction. Not just to new people or opportunities, but to a new you. The you who no longer begs to be understood. The you who no longer explains their worth. The you who no longer tolerates confusion disguised as connection. This is the turning point. Stay present. Stay grounded. Stay receptive. Because the next revelation will expose what is being released toward you now that the interference is gone, and why this next season will move faster than you expect. And when you hear what God has already approved on your behalf, you'll realize the cut wasn't the ending. It was the beginning. Do not rush past this moment, because what unfolds now explains why provision, protection, and favor are suddenly aligning at the same time. This is not coincidence. This is consequence, the result of obedience to a separation you did not fully understand when it happened. Archangel Michael makes this known to you now. When God cuts something off for good, He does not leave the space empty. He fills it with reinforcement. What you lost access to was replaced with covering. What drained you was replaced with supply. What confused you was replaced with clarity. This is why your energy is returning. You are no longer leaking strength into places that never poured back. Heaven has sealed the exits where virtue was escaping. And now, resources, emotional, spiritual, and even practical, are being redirected toward you. You may notice this shift in unexpected ways. A sudden idea that feels aligned. A door opening with less resistance. Support arriving without you begging. This is not luck. This is alignment paying dividends. Archangel Michael speaks plainly now. God does not waste pain. Every tear you shed became a receipt. Every silent battle became a record. And now, heaven is responding with restoration that goes beyond what you thought you were asking for. But here is an instruction you must not ignore. As provision increases, distraction will try to increase too. Voices will compete for your attention. Old habits will try to resurface. The temptation will be to scatter your focus just when concentration matters most. Stay disciplined. Favor responds to focus. This is why staying connected to what strengthens your spirit matters right now. Even small acts of alignment, showing support, staying anchored, choosing to remain present, keep your attention pointed forward instead of backward. It is not about obligation. It is about agreement. And hear this clearly, because it matters. When you support what feeds your spirit, you are not giving, you are positioning. Alignment always multiplies. Archangel Michael also reveals something practical now. As God elevates you, He will invite you into deeper levels of commitment, not pressure, not force, but invitation. Some will feel called to go deeper, to stay closer, to be more intentional about growth and insight. That is why pathways of deeper connection exist. For those who feel led to stand nearer, to support consistently, to receive more consistently. There is no demand here. Only discernment. Those who step into deeper alignment will notice clarity sharpen faster. Those who choose to remain supportive in simple ways will still benefit. Heaven honors willing hearts, not pressured ones. Now listen carefully, because this next part is critical. The enemy does not fear your struggle. He fears your stability. That is why peace is being guarded so fiercely around you now. You may notice fewer emotional highs and lows. Fewer dramatic swings. More steadiness. That is not stagnation, that is strength. Stability is power. Archangel Michael declares that your next season is not loud, it is effective. You will do more with less effort. You will see results without exhaustion. You will recognize when to move and when to wait. And because of this, some people will not recognize you anymore. That is okay. You were not called to remain understandable to those who only knew you in survival mode. As you move forward, you may feel prompted to invest where there is clarity, not chaos. Where there is structure, not confusion. Where growth is intentional, not accidental. Follow that prompting. God often blesses through systems that protect focus and consistency. Now a warning, gentle, but firm. Do not announce everything God is doing. Do not explain every blessing. Do not invite opinions into sacred transitions. Privacy is protection at this level. What God is building in you now must mature before it is exposed. Seeds grow best underground. Archangel Michael assures you, you are not behind. You are not late. You are right on time, but on a different clock now. Your pace will not match those around you, and that is intentional. You are being trained for longevity, not burnout. For impact, not applause. For sustainability, not spectacle. And here is the confirmation your heart has been waiting for. The pain does not come back to test you again. God does not recycle lessons you already passed. The reason this season feels different is because it is different. This is not recovery. This is advancement. Stay anchored. Stay discerning. Stay aligned. Because what is about to unfold next will explain why this elevation requires protection, why not everyone can go with you, and why the next door opening will demand a level of courage you haven't needed before. And when that door appears, you will understand why God waited until everything unnecessary was cut off before allowing you to step through it. Stay with this final movement, because what is being spoken now seals everything that came before it. This is not build-up anymore. This is activation. Archangel Michael stands firm in authority and speaks this over you clearly. What you are stepping into now does not require you to struggle the way you used to. The warfare has shifted. The weight has lifted. The resistance that once slowed every step has been removed because the opposition no longer has legal access. This is why things feel quieter. Do not confuse quiet with emptiness. Do not mistake peace for lack of momentum. Silence after battle is not loss, it is victory settling in. You survived a season that would have hardened many people. Instead of becoming bitter, you became discerning. Instead of collapsing, you endured. And because of that, heaven has entrusted you with a different kind of future. One that moves without chaos. One that grows without constant explanation. One that blesses without draining you. Now hear this carefully, because this truth anchors everything. God did not cut them off just to end your pain. He cut them off because they could not go where you are going. Their presence would have required you to keep shrinking. Their access would have forced compromise. And the next level does not tolerate divided focus. This is why there was no negotiation. Archangel Michael declares that the door ahead of you opens only for those who are clear, grounded, and unentangled. You have been prepared for this through discomfort, delay, and deep inner refinement. That preparation is complete. You will notice that decisions now feel cleaner. You don't wrestle the same way. You don't overthink as long. You don't explain yourself as much. That is not indifference, that is authority. And with authority comes responsibility. You are being trusted with influence, quiet influence, steady influence, influence that does not need to be loud to be effective. Your presence will shift rooms. Your discernment will prevent mistakes. Your calm will speak louder than words. But here is the final instruction Archangel Michael leaves you with: do not look back to measure progress. Do not replay the old chapters to prove growth. Do not reopen healed wounds to confirm they no longer hurt. Forward is the only direction that sustains what God has built in you. There will be moments ahead where the past tries to reintroduce itself, through memory, through curiosity, through comparison. When that happens, remember this decree: what God cuts off for good has no authority to knock again. Even if it tries, the door is sealed. You are not who you were when the pain started. You are not who you were when you begged for relief. You are not who you were when you barely held on. That version of you carried you to safety, but this next season requires a different posture. one of confidence, one of restraint, one of quiet expectation. Because blessings are approaching that do not announce themselves loudly at first. They arrive subtly. They unfold steadily. And then suddenly, you look back and realize everything changed. Archangel Michael confirms this now. The shift you asked for has already begun. You will see proof not in a single dramatic moment, but in how consistently things begin to work in your favor. Less resistance. More clarity. Fewer explanations. Stronger alignment. And yes, joy returns. Not the fragile kind that depends on circumstances, but the rooted kind that comes from stability and purpose. This is not emotional excitement. This is settled assurance. If you feel a quiet pull to stay aware, to remain connected, to keep your spirit aligned, honor that. Not out of obligation, but out of wisdom. Where your attention goes, your peace follows. Now receive this final confirmation, and let it rest deep within you. God did not just end your pain. He closed the chapter permanently. He protected your future decisively. He cleared your path intentionally. And what comes next will not wound you. It will recognize you. It will meet you whole. It will require you to rise, not recover. The cutting is complete. The season has turned. The door is opening. Walk forward without hesitation. Heaven has already gone before you.